26, 1986, one of the reactors at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine, overheated and caused an explosion. The explosion sent a large amount of radioactive substances into the environment. Okay, so sure, it's obvious a nuclear accident would have tremendous impacts on many things, but who would have thought it would be such a chilling yet fascinating topic 28 years later? The Chernobyl nuclear accident is a huge part of our world history and is also very interesting, to say the least. Over the past few weeks, I've done a lot of research over this topic and have found a lot of compelling information on this subject. In this speech, I will explain the many different effects and repercussions of the Chernobyl accident. The explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear plant had outstanding effects on nearby communities, the atmosphere, and the plant life, and the effects can still be seen in present-day Chernobyl and Pripyat. Before we go any further into the Chernobyl accident, I feel like we should first talk about the communities surrounding the plant and how they were affected. The communities surrounding the Chernobyl power plant felt the effects of the explosion. Two of the hardest hit was the towns of Pripyat and Chernobyl. According to former history teacher Dustin Bailey, thousands and thousands of people from both Pripyat and Chernobyl were first forced to leave their homes. The city of Pripyat, which was home to about 50,000 people, and the location of the power plant itself, was evacuated and abandoned on the spot. The city of Chernobyl, home of about 14,000 people, and about 12 miles south of the power plant, was also evacuated and abandoned. This can be seen in these images behind me of a hospital, office, and a local carnival. While it is extremely interesting that these cities were just left as is, it is even more interesting that they are still that way today, frozen in time. If you take a trip to Pripyat or Chernobyl, or even just Google pictures of them, it will look exactly like it did in 1986. Everything has been left untouched for the most part. The remnants of life before the explosion and the overgrown vegetation is a grim reminder of the tragedy that happened that day. In the video, Chernobyl Uncensored, the director delivers a very great picture of how much of a frozen image of the 80s the cities are. Some people have actually returned to Chernobyl to live, although authorities do not advise it. People cannot return to Pripyat to live, however, because there are still dangerous amounts of radiation lingering about. There is a barrier surrounding the city of Pripyat. Inside the barriers is considered the exclusion zone. People can actually pay to go inside the exclusion zone and take a tour of the ghost town. People travel from all over the world to take these tours. As well as the nearby cities being affected, there was also radioactive particles detected over most of the northern hemisphere. The nuclear accident explosion affected the atmosphere and the plant life in several ways. On the World Nuclear Association website, they state how much of an impact the explosion had on the atmosphere and the plant life. There was radioactive fallout scattered over most of northern Europe and other nearby countries. The plant life in the exclusion zone is where the strongest amount of radioactivity can be detected today. In conclusion to this speech, I hope that you better understand how incredibly interesting the Chernobyl nuclear accident is. I hope that after hearing a few of these facts, you will be as interested in the explosion as I am. And I hope you will go online and look at some of the images of the present-day ghost town.